everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, good evening.
Good to see you all. Just looking for somebody. She can't come in, she's saying. Wait.
Yeah, I don't see Marina.
Pallavi is there. Okay, she's in. Okay, good. Okay, then, yeah, good evening, and let's start with some prayers, maybe. Da-da-dum. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I took refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. With skillful means and compassion, you were born in the Shakya clan. Unconquerable by others, you vanquished Mara's hordes. Your physical form resplendent like a mountain of gold. To you, the king of the Sakyas, or Shakyas, I pay homage. So, yeah, welcome again to this Bodhicharyavatara session. We are in the middle of chapter 6, which is obviously on patience. And yeah, as a reminder, patience doesn't mean to be passive and let other people take advantage of us, but it means, yeah, to have this mental strength to remain strong and unshakable and peaceful, even if things are difficult, even if other people hurt us, insult us, disrespect us, or if situations are difficult, or if we have difficult situations to practice Dharma. That is one part of patience. And also, when it comes to Dharma teaching, also there we need the patience to accept the profound truth without running away. That is sort of the third kind of patience, where we are able to take the profound truth of emptiness, to take it in and with all the consequences it entails. I just mute. If you, so I mute everyone, but if you want to say something, then of course unmute yourself. Yeah, so there are very different types of patience, and here where we are in chapter 6 is where where Shantideva is analyzing that there's not really an enemy out there, and that the enemy has the choice to do harm to us, and more he's explaining that the enemy herself, himself, is really like victim basically of so many causes and conditions. For example, his or her negative emotions, and also that we, of course, are also partly responsible for the whole thing, because we are maybe receptive to his or her harm. And Shantideva, I think today in the verses, he will explain also that it is also our karma. So what we have done in the past plays a big role why the enemy is now appearing in front of us. And even though maybe enemy is a strong word, and we might not, or hopefully we don't have anyone like that in our life, I'm using this word because Shantideva is using it, because he really wants to make it more clear, like to show that he sometimes, I think, in a pedagogical way, making it very strong, like we are going on a battlefield, or there's an enemy, and if we are angry, then we destroy like so many kalpas of positive merit and so on, so he's I think teachers say sometimes maybe a little bit overemphasizing everything to make his point clear, so that we don't find any excuse and maybe find excuses like justifying, yes, anger is good here or in this situation or in that situation. But Shantideva is really telling us anger is never good in any situation. Also not in Mahamudra or Dzogchen or in those kind of teachings where we then maybe see the true nature of anger, or we transform it into something creative or constructive or wise. But then it's transformed, or we see the nature, then it is something positive, powerful, and wise, and it's not anger anymore. Yeah. Okay, where we are is verse 35, I think. And that is based on verse 34, of course, which I will share first as a reminder. Oops. So many windows here. So here Shantideva is pointing out that so when we talk about our enemy, which is, let's say, a human being, then he or she wants to be happy. That is the basic Buddhist understanding. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama is also saying that, that this is really the common trait of all sentient beings. We want to be happy. And so here, verse 34 is saying, if things were brought into being by choice, then since no one wishes to suffer, suffering would not occur to any embodied creature or being. So if that is the truth, and I guess it is, that we all want to be happy, whatever that means for us, then ideally we would only do what brings more happiness and what maintains or stabilizes the existent happiness. But unfortunately, we constantly, not constantly maybe, but very often we sabotage our own happiness, and out of ignorance create more and more causes that lead to more and more suffering. So, and that is sort of the samsaric tragedy, that we, with so much effort, create results that we don't want, and we actually want the total opposite of what we achieve. And so the point here is, we accept that our enemy also wants to be happy, but unfortunately, in his or her endeavor to be happy, he has not the power or the control or the choice, is written here, to really establish his or her own happiness. But because of ignorance, of not knowing what to do and what to adopt, he or she is creating more and more causes for further suffering. So, and that is now elaborated in the next verses. Or I didn't need to stop that screen share. And so the whole idea here is now that we try to, I mean, understand our enemy is a human being, who is not inherently bad, but is actually a sentient being, somebody who has feelings and wishes and hopes, and fears. And if our enemy is cutting him or herself, there's even blood coming out, and this person is sad or disappointed, and so we just want to understand that this enemy is not this inherent bad person. And so we want to understand the situation of the enemy. And by that is the idea here. The more we have an understanding of somebody, the more empathy we develop, and the more compassion and loving kindness we develop, the more we open our heart then. And then there is less and less space for anger. That is the whole idea here. And so verse 35 is saying, through not being careful, people even harm themselves with thorns and other things. And for the sake of obtaining women, in the case of men or lesbians and the like, they become obsessed and deprive themselves of food. So Shantideva is saying, unfortunately, it's not the case that we do everything by choice and with a good, clear mind. But unfortunately, like our enemy is doing things that he or she doesn't want to do, because he or she is just overwhelmed by negative emotions and therefore is harming us. Maybe he or she is jealous or full of desire or very angry. And then Shantideva is explaining here how that can happen, that our enemy is by that then even not only harming us, but also harming themselves. And why does that happen, that somebody who wants to be happy is still harming him or herself? That is the main question here. And the answer is, first line, through not being careful. That is really the main point. If we are not careful or heedful, or then we either we don't really notice when like negative emotions creep into our mind, and also being heedless means that we are too lazy also to go out of a state of negative emotions. And we are also then maybe not interested to practice the Dharma. And maybe we are also not careful about our mental state at all. So if we have that kind of heedlessness or carefulness, then yeah, we are very prone to any klesha attack, or we are very, very yeah, we are very inviting. We invite distractions, we invite negative emotions, we invite wrong views, we invite many judgments and so on. And that is dangerous. And then it can even be the case, I mean, in a very mundane thing, if we are not careful, then I don't know, sorry, Pallavi, but for example, in India, as a Westerner, if you go there, have to be careful with the food because you're not so familiar with the germs there. And then you eat something that you just, because it looks good, and then you eat it, but then maybe you get sick afterwards. Or we could understand here the thorn thing. So if we walk through the mountains and then we step into some thorns, or we have a car accident, or we harm ourselves in different ways. So all these things are happening because we are just not careful, and therefore we are not mindful about what we do with our body, speech, or mind. And also some commentators say even people maybe because of carelessness, they also have a wrong view, and then they have a misperception of what brings happiness, and then intentionally they maybe cut themselves with thorns, in a kind of ascetic practice. But all these things, they just create more suffering and not happiness. That is the main point. And another example here is if you talk to heterosexual monks that were Shantideva's, I guess, main audience, then Shantideva is saying, if you are wishing to have a woman or have sex or money or name, position, fame, and so on, then you do very strange things. You might be so obsessed with obtaining a woman or obtaining fame that you do many things that are very harmful on the way, and that you do things with a lot of negative emotions. You might be obsessed with that aim, and you might even starve yourself. Or I think many wars have been started also because you wanted, or not you, but the king wanted the queen of another kingdom, and so that is the idea. We want some happiness, and but we create so much suffering on the way. And also the happiness, whatever we aim at, is a very worldly and temporal thing. So, and that again is, of course, we can apply it to ourselves, but here it is mainly to understand that we see that our enemy is in that situation, that he or she wants to be happy, but because he or she is totally controlled by his or her kleshas, therefore he or she is doing those strange things that only create more and more suffering. Okay, one more verse and then let's discuss a little bit. There's verse 36, which is also a little bit similar. And there are some who injure themselves through the unmeritorious deeds of hanging themselves, leaping from cliffs, eating poison and unhealthy food. Yeah, so people harm themselves. And for example, also through, not for example, but that is the main thing, through egoistic actions, because that always involves a negative emotion, that always then plants different negative imprints in our minds, which always then lead to negative results. And here are very drastic examples. Some people commit suicide even. They hang themselves, or they jump from cliffs or bridges, or they take poison intentionally, thinking that by that they can solve a problem. Even suicide, is for some is the only solution they see, because they understand how much suffering there is. And then, they try to end that suffering and don't see any other solution than killing themselves, which of course is understandable, but from Buddhist point of view, it doesn't make any sense, because your causes of suffering are still there, no matter if you kill yourself or not, that your karma will follow you. And even committing suicide creates another karma, a negative one. I think Dzongtse Khyentse Rinpoche said, based on the sutras, that committing suicide is such a strong thing that creates a tendency, to do that again, like for 500 lifetimes or something like that is said in the sutras, apparently. But also you can have less drastic things. You can also talk about sexual misconduct, where you think that creates happiness, but actually it creates more and more suffering, or lying or stealing, those things. And many of these things, they also destroy the happiness in this life, but karmically speaking, they definitely destroy happiness in future lives. So therefore, let's still talk about the enemy that he or she is in that situation and making so much suffering, creating so much suffering for themselves. So it's the same ideas. They really don't deserve our anger. They are really destroying their own happiness, their own future happinesses also. So our anger would be really misdirected or misplaced if we get angry with them just because they harm us a little bit, or because they have some harsh words at the moment for us. What do you think so far? Does it make sense?
Arne.
Who's speaking?
It does. I think it's just when a strong emotion, a negative emotion, is just coming up, depends on maybe we deal with that with it in a different way, or someone has done something and you get upset and you feel. I tend to focus it upon myself, just hold on, not really thinking about the person being consumed by the negative emotions. I've got to grab on myself first, and then to calm down, and then other thinking, can evolve from there. But if I were to, I don't know, I don't think it has happened to first think about them, and it's like they don't know what they're doing, and that way control what I feel. It's starting and could turn into an anger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that is it's not Shantideva's problem, but more our problem, that we only look into the text every second week, because that is not the first method he is giving us. It's one of the many methods. And yes, and definitely, there's in the beginning, he's more talking about us, like look into your own anger. Why do you have anger? What is that kind of chronic dissatisfaction you have, or this hypersensitivity, like we are like a abscess, you are very touchy, whenever whatever small thing happens, you're bursting. So there are many advices first on how to look into ourselves and our own mind. And I think actually, if you like, I think sometimes it's good to read one chapter in one go, because how we are going through it here is very like not scattered really, but there's just so much distance in between. Yeah, but I see some people like Jo, Nadia, and Pallavi. They're always in different Bodhisattva courses. So for them, maybe there are not so many gaps in between. And I think that helps. Yeah. So maybe sometimes it's good to just read one chapter. I think it doesn't take so long. Also, then it's nice to see how the flow is of the verses, because sometimes they look sort of same to the same point, but then there's always a little change from verse to verse, and so it's sometimes unnoticeable. It's going into one great direction, but then suddenly you end up somewhere where we didn't start from. Yeah, but it's definitely a good point. There are so many methods, and like observing ourselves, checking ourselves, is definitely was also, I think, here the first method. Yeah, because it's also dangerous. I think sometimes if you look to the other person, then maybe it's more easy to be angry again, or then maybe you are reminded of his or her harsh words, or then you go more into the and then you maybe justify why you're angry with him or her. So sometimes not looking outside but only inside, it could be more safe in the beginning.
Yeah, but on the teachings, looking at myself and my states of mind and so on and so forth, but also contemplating about others and realizing that everyone is on the same boat, I think it could actually help when considering equanimity, that we are all the same with that, really working, on the four immeasurables and so on and so forth.
Yes, what we want to develop here is the first immeasurable, right? Or second, compassion and love. We want to develop that, and for that we want to understand the sad situation our enemy is in. Like no control over his or her emotions, and therefore creating more and more suffering for himself or herself or ourselves, unwillingly. And the more we understand that situation, the more hopefully compassion and love can arise. And these are the immeasurables that we want to develop. The whole thing of patience is that we are able to even use difficult situations in a beneficial way for others, instead of defending ourselves or killing others mentally or with words. Anybody else? It's really fun with these Zoom times. Some of you I have seen in different Zooms today already.
Arne?
Yes, you, for example, I've just seen you like 1 hour ago.
Yes. Arlene too, and some others too. Very nice. We changed our room, so we're in another class now. Anyway, I was hoping that you can explain me about, okay, if I get angry with someone and I'm not very skillful, so I will catch my emotion just when it's all boiling, So sometimes some teachers like Trungpa Rinpoche says something like working with that energy, transform the energy of the emotions into something good or beneficial. But I don't know because I combine the stanza who say that you have to be like a piece of wood. So you are relaxed, okay, outside, but inside you have this boiling going on. So how I can work with my emotions while I'm quiet like a piece of wood?
I mean, Trungpa Rinpoche is of course always right.
Yes.
But it's of course always difficult if you have that strong emotion already. And we from Germany, we think South Americans have even stronger emotions than us.
Of
So
course.
I can only imagine. No, but also Rinpoche is saying also in devotion, you know, you have much better devotion than us, you know. So what is your question? Yeah, but that is really the difficult, you know, if we have, if the emotion is already like a full-grown adult or tree, then then I don't know. Then I think not many methods work so easily. But
but do you think that there's another way, regardless, like, for example, if you meditate, you do shamatha, maybe you can catch the emotions before it grows up a lot. Yeah, I cannot tell that a little bit, but there is another way to say, to learn to do that. Not like just meditation, there's another way.
why don't
No?
you like the meditative way?
Because it's too slow.
It is, or you are?
maybe it's my problem. Yeah.
No, just joking. I don't know. I don't want to make a religion out of meditation, but I think it's really the best way. And maybe we don't need to call it meditation, but what is important to catch the anger when it's not an adult but a baby, you know, or not a tree but a tiny green sprout, you know, then it's very easy to work with it. And yeah, the earlier you see that, the better. The earlier you catch that emotion, the more workable it is. And for that, I think you need the qualities of meditation, you know, like watching your mind, and not immediately getting entangled in small mental movements, but keeping a sane kind of distance or a gap to what is happening, having that awareness. You have to be present, you have to be undistracted to do so. So that are all these qualities that describe meditation. Therefore, I would say we need meditation. If we have the habit to be angry. If we don't have, then we don't need meditation. I mean, if our habit is to be compassionate, then that's good enough. Then that counteracts any angry habit.
Yes, it's interesting because in the chapters here, meditations is after patience.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering why meditations is not before.
And I was wondering, why didn't you ask Turku, who is already teaching the 8th chapter?
Because I remember the questions now.
Good. Yeah, I think from the parameter point of view, that is usually how it is explained. Like in the Bodhicharyavatarā, it's also following the strict order of the parameters. And then patience is sort of a prerequisite for then meditating. But I think also that is again a pedagogical tool, you know, because to be a parameter, for example, wisdom has to be in all of them. And to be a parameter, I'm sure you studied that, you know, each parameter has to be in each in the other in all the others, you know. So we have 36 parameters basically. So therefore, they're not so separatable. And yes, you need those qualities what I mentioned just now, like single-pointedness, maybe not so much distraction, to work with anger and to have patience, and that in turn helps you to have more single-pointed mind and more awareness. Yes, but that is also the beauty, that they're all interconnected and supporting each other.
Nadia.
So maybe it's also so it doesn't have to be linear, maybe, but you just start whatever you feel most attracted to, to with what paramita you feel most connected to, and then I think the others will follow. I'm also saying that because I know in your Bodhisattva project you had, I think, a quiz where it was also asked which is the most important parameter. I think I heard that.
Yeah.
And yeah, from textbook, I think people would say generosity, because that is what we can practice. It's the beginning. But then in the ninth chapter, Shantideva is saying the wisdom is the most important, and everything else was taught for that. And I want to raise the point now that maybe the parameter is the most important for you. That is the most important for you now, So, and then you just start with that, and all the others will follow.
Thank you.
Emilia.
Nadia, there are teachings on, have you heard of Mingo Rinpoche? Well, I can write on the chat in the Terga meditation, and they have many teachings, but if you look at the path of the joy of living, 1, 2, 3 is all about, is very much practice orientated meditation, meditation techniques to use awareness, and awareness that goes all the way to dealing with emotions, to understand.
What was the name?
Terga. I'll write it down here. You were mentioning about the emotions. I think it's really, those teachings, they are just fantastic. Mingo Rinpoche is also a fantastic teacher. And it's, it depends which way you come. He's very into practicing. And then there is some wisdom and so on, but not so heavy on the theoretical part. Others, they are heavy on the theoretical and they leave the meditation for last. I'll just write here.
Thank you.
If I may add, not that I'm an expert in managing patients, but vigilant introspection is something that I feel really helps before the meditative situation, because you can't really be in a meditative situation all the time. So vigilant introspection really helps at many times, if not all times.
Yeah. And yeah, Dolpo Turko today said vigilance is just watching, just watching the mind, whatever is happening, that thing, the observer. And that is also used like by Mingyur Rinpoche in his Mahamudra style, it's the same, this just merely watching, merely being aware of
Zomsa also says that he's like, just keep watching it. It just like, sometimes it just like dismantles or dissolves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is the idea. If one is really in that state, then whenever there's a small little emotion coming up, then it's self-liberating at the spot, but and then it's compared to like drawings on water, but if we don't catch the beginning, then it becomes like carved in stones, and then it's really difficult to get rid of it.
But that watching is also not very easy. It's like you have to really, that also requires patience to watch, keep watching.
Yeah. That's what I meant earlier. You need so many other things also. No distraction. You need also renunciation to not be distracted, and awareness. You need to be present. You need to be mindful to remember to watch. It's really like so many things together.
Arne?
Who's talking?
Oh, it's Marina. Can I do a quick follow-up on the non-distraction point that you just made?
I can't see your video today.
It's one of those days.
Okay, I do the same.
So, you know, I guess that just, it's really interesting listening to the discussion, because you know, I keep hearing or coming back to Dzongchen Khyentse Rinpoche's comment about, like, if you're just beginning or if you're just starting out, you know, do shorter sessions and try not to kind of overload, I guess, on the meditation part, or you know, I think what I remember is, like, you know, if you do a meditation session, then go on Facebook for a few minutes and then come back, go and do something and then come back. And in those moments, I guess, do, you know, I guess, how do we align some of that with trying to maintain that constant state? I guess, is it just trying to train more and more?
I think that is actually quoted by the ninth Karmapa in Ocean of Definite Meaning. He's there. The ninth Karmapa is talking a lot about that. You know, that especially as beginners, you know, we should have many sessions but short sessions. You know, that is, I think, also what Dzongchen Khyentse Rinpoche is quoting. And the idea is that so that we are not. There are so many things in it, but if you would just attempt to have like a 1 hour session right from the beginning, that will be very frustrating and will also create a strange habit of not being so clear and not doing a valuable meditation, you know, because we will be distracted a lot. So therefore, the ninth Karmapa is suggesting to as beginners, especially, to have very short sessions, like 1 minute, 2 or 3 minutes, and then take a break. But then by the number of these small sessions, we also come to a substantial thing. But nevertheless, the quality of meditation is much better, you know, if it's like a 2 or 3 minute thing. But then he is also saying in post-meditation, he of course was not talking about Facebook in his time, but he said in post-meditation, you can do sort of whatever you do, like in his case, it was get your tea, you know, or clean your shrine or do something. But keep the thread of awareness, you know, that is definitely part of it. But the idea of his approach, or the Mahamudra approach, is to relax a little bit, you know, because maybe in the formal meditation we are getting a little bit too tense because it's labeled meditation. So, and therefore in post-meditation we are maybe a little bit more relaxed and spacious, and therefore we let true realization happen then. So that is usually the idea of having breaks in the middle of the meditation, but without interrupting the flow of awareness. Like Duchamp Rinpoche said, you know, we, what did he say? We leave the meditation session, but the meditation is not leaving us, sort of, you know. So we keep that awareness, but then we do whatever we do. And I heard also that many masters had quite profound realization then in post-meditation, because they were much more relaxed than during that time. But of course, that needed the preparation of the formal meditation before. So it's not an excuse to only do post-meditation, but the beauty is to do both and then alternate that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that actually is helpful to kind of maybe join some of the different aspects of the different types of meditation.
Yeah. But really, like the Karmapa says, okay, now you sit and you meditate, and then of course, also there you try to relax and so on, and have your introspection intact. But then you take a break, and then let's say you make a tea, and then you, of course, you totally do your tea and you walk there, but still you are always aware what you're doing, you know, when you touch your tea, when you boil your water. There's hopefully a seamless continuity of that awareness happening.
I don't know if it's the same for others. It's Katya. I just put the camera on. For me, one of the difficulties is that if I try to keep that state after meditation, it has some kind of seriousness. And in these days when everything is so heavy, I find it difficult. I want to go in my life and not think too much, and so I'm struggling really to meditate these days because, yeah, the general context makes it hard for me.
But you're talking about it's difficult meditation or post-meditation?
Post-meditation.
But post-meditation, you don't have to add any thinking, but post-meditation is just means what Pallavi said, you know, like we're just aware of what is happening, you know, we just watch everything. So I'm aware, you know, that I'm holding this and that I'm doing this, but that's it, you know, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not analyzing it, but I'm just knowing it, you know, what is happening. Just that is a very, very basic and effortless state, actually, you know. So it's not that we do something, I think, heavy.
Yeah, I get it, but I don't know why. It's kind of putting me in a strange state. I can't really explain it, but I don't intently do it. It just happens.
What just happens?
Just this kind of state where I probably, I don't know, I think too much, or I don't know if I think too much or if I stop thinking, but somehow there's this kind of awareness, and I feel it as something heavy, as I don't know, an effort or something.
It could just need maybe more training so that it's becoming more effortless and not like an extra task, but more your default setting, you know, like just knowing and just being there. Or also maybe you can do other things, you know, you could also just, what some people say, it's very helpful just to Tonglen all the time, you know, just know your breath going in and out and sending good things out and taking suffering in. Or if things get heavy, some people like to you know, be this child of illusion, you know, go through that is the Lojong post-meditation practice, that you just live your life, but you always remind yourself that everything is like an illusion or like a dream. And then the heaviness could also go away because there's nothing so serious, nothing so real, nothing threatening, nothing to run after.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are just so many methods. Okay, let's get to another verse by Shantideva. I will share that. Yeah, so here we are still in that method, you know, let's try to understand the poor enemy, you know, and forget that he or she is harming us, you know, but let's think and understand how much he or she is harming her or himself. If, when under the influence of disturbing conceptions, this klesha, negative emotions, and this is coming because our enemy is not realizing their Buddha nature. So therefore, if they are like helplessly entangled into kleshas, then so I'm still there. Then the enemy has no freedom, you know, no choice, you know, but the kleshas are the control control us, you know. And my enemy wants to be happy, but the kleshas blind him or her, and therefore the enemy is doing negative things, which, for example, is they even kill themselves, you know. That is usually the most precious thing, what we all have, you know, our own lives. And some, they even, kill that what they cherish the most, you know, their own life. If that can happen, then of course there should be, it's not a big surprise then, you know, we can't, that maybe the enemy is also harming me. Since we are, of course, not his or her priority, you know, they are themselves their priority and they are harming themselves. So of course, they will harm others as well. And this will also come later a little bit, just the understanding that our enemy is in samsara and we are in samsara, and therefore misunderstandings are bound to happen, and we cannot expect a perfect situation, you know. That is already so helpful. That is already a big step towards patience, you know, because then we just don't have too much expectations in regards to ourselves or others. And therefore, Shantideva is saying, even if I cannot develop compassion for all such people, you know, who harm themselves, you know, who are victims of their own negative emotions, and that I think the cultural explanation would be, you know, they would be possessed by the demon, you know, of anger, and and when they then harm me, you know, in whatever way, then we should understand all the previous verses and points, you know, that they are not in control, and they create even more suffering for themselves. And having understood that, you know, the best thing is to have compassion, of course, but if we are not able to do so, because it requires some training, then at least, you know, don't be angry with them. And that is, of course, for both of us, it's good. So if somebody, if my enemy is harming me, and if at least I'm not angry with them, that is good for them, because I'm not escalating the situation. I'm not beating him or her or scolding him or her. And it's also very good, of course, for myself, because if I'm not angry, I'm most likely patient. So that is also good for my mental peace. And that is also explained at the beginning of chapter 6. And if I keep my patience, then also my sleep will still be good, the food will still be tasty, those kind of things also, you know. Okay, now there are two examples coming. I will go through them, and then I want to ask you something, because I was really thinking about them, because they look a little bit opposite, but I decided the first one is just talking about the relative truth, and the second one is talking about the absolute truth. So I will give you my version first, and then I'm curious what you think. So I think verse 39. Maybe let's look at 39 first. Is about the relative nature, the relative situation or nature, is used here when beings are in samsara. So even if it were the nature of the childish, which are samsaric beings, to cause harm to other beings, it would still be incorrect to be angry with them, for this would be like begrudging fire for having the nature to burn. So, sorry. So, according to the commentaries, even if that would be really the nature of samsaric beings, to be violent and harmful, and that they don't know how to behave properly when they are overwhelmed by kleshas, then then there is no need to be angry with them either, even if they harm me, because last line, because fire is by nature is hot and burning. That is the definition of fire, being hot and burning, and therefore it is totally useless to then be angry with the fire for being hot. So likewise, it is useless or meaningless to be angry with somebody who is in samsara for causing me harm, for example. So I think that describes more the relative situation of being in samsara. And then verse 40, I think, is going a little bit more into the absolute nature of Buddha nature. Because here we say, okay, sentient beings are Buddha by nature, even though temporarily they are overwhelmed by adventitious defilements and kleshas. And but it doesn't make sense to be angry with them, because they are by nature Buddha. And we should not be angry with them just because I don't like the adventitious defilements. So I should not be angry with the space just because there are clouds. Okay, I will go through the verse. And even if the fault were temporary, so even if the enemy is only sometimes angry with us, in they who are by nature reliable. So that means by nature, the sentient beings are reliable. They are peaceful, gentle, reasonable, usually, That is usually how beings are. It would be still incorrect to be angry. So, and here I think one could add, because one would be angry with the person just because of a temporal defect, just because of an adventitious problem. And the example here is, for this would be like begrudging space for allowing smoke to arise in it. So the idea is there's space, that is like this where everything happens, and then smoke is arising in this space, and smoke is like burning in my eyes, and that's why I'm normally getting angry or irritated. And then we would blame the space. That would be totally unreasonable or incorrect, as written here, for allowing the smoke to arise in the space. But instead, it would be more reasonable to just be begrudging with the smoke, which are the negative emotions. So that's how I understand it. Here on the verse 30, we are talking about the ultimate thing. Let's say the nature of mind allows also negative emotions to arise. But then, of course, we are not angry with the nature of mind, with the absolute truth. But we should target our anger with the negative emotions. Does it make sense, or was it too confusing? It also doesn't matter so much if we categorize it like relative or absolute, but I hope you got the idea, like to really find out where is the problem, And in the first verse 39, it is more like it's just part of samsaric beings, to harm each other So therefore, don't expect anything else. You know, that's part of the package deal. You know, full stop. And verse 40 is more whatever harm they do or whatever negative emotions our enemies have, it is on a very superficial level, and it's not really them. And therefore, don't be angry with them. But if you want to be angry, then target your anger to the negative emotions. Okay, Jangshop is writing something, but I don't know. In German, we always use but. It's always directly contradicting to whatever was said before. But I think he is Russian, if I remember. Or maybe I'm wrong. But heat is inherent kind of fire, and kleshas is impermanent as clouds obscuring the sky. How we can compare? Exactly, these are two different examples. That was actually my point. Why I was thinking about them in the first place, because they're really different examples. I thought, and therefore, yes, the fire example is saying heat is part of the fire. So therefore, let's not be surprised if you burn our hands. Likewise, harming each other is part of being a samsaric being, so therefore let's not be surprised. Whereas in the second example, kleshas are impermanent as clouds that are obscuring the sky, yes, and therefore no need to be angry with the sky, right? And that is what Shantideva is saying. Kleshas are just there, so no need to be angry with the person or the Buddha nature of the person. Yeah, I really was again and again thinking of these two examples, how they're similar or if they're really fitting or not.
But Arne, 40 says not to be angry at all, also not at smoke. Isn't that the difference?
Sorry, can you say it again?
In verse 40 it says not to be angry at all in the third line. Also not be angry at the smoke.
Oh, I don't have that. I have only, it would still be incorrect to be angry.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you elaborate your point, Mr. Yuan?
Yeah, I see the difference between 39 and 40 in the sense that in 39, it's nowhere becoming angry at anything.
Yes.
And I thought you just meant that you'd better be angry at the smoke than at the space.
Okay, yeah, no, we should not. That is, of course, not our training here, that we are angry at the smoke. Yes, but this would be a little bit more reasonable, at least. That was I was trying to say that. Yeah. No, it's not asking us to be angry, but yeah, maybe I think I said it wrongly. Yeah, but yeah, just let's find where the problem is, and the problem is not the space, but the clouds. Yeah.
Arne.
Emilia.
Well, I actually have the book, but it's a Padmankara translation group, and the translation is quite different anyway from what you were showing. Anyhow.
Okay, that's good. I will look into it.
I've just looked at now what you were saying, and what it came to me like maybe intuitively is that it's looking from the two sides of the coin. 39 is looking from what we tend to do, which is the reification, and believe that the person has that quality of being angry at us or whatever. In that case, either or both in that case, or if we have realized emptiness, whichever way on the two sides of the coin, there is no point in being angry with the person.
Two sides of
Either
coin?
when verifying or knowing that is empty of inherent existence.
Yeah, that
was
my point.
In being angry. Yeah.
No, that's what, yeah, exactly. That's, I thought also relative and absolute makes sense a little bit to put it into
I think
categories.
it's looking at the two sides of the coin from the
Yeah.
point of view, while we are trapped in the samsaric thinking and do the refine, to say, well, there is no point in being really angry at the person. There is no solid thing. But on the other side, there is no point either. I think the bottom line is there is no point.
Exactly, yes. This is also my take-home message, yes. Yes. No matter on which level, yes. Yeah, I think I only have Padmakara's old version here, just for the moment. It says, and if their faults are fleeting and contingent, if living beings are by nature mild, it's likewise senseless to resent them. As well, be angry at the sky when it's full of smoke. Yeah, but I think we got the point. I think, yeah, don't be angry no matter what. It's not good for ourselves and others, and it doesn't make sense on relative and not sense on absolute level. Whereas patience is good on the relative and absolute level. And really, the last part of patience is because Nadia asked about a little bit earlier about meditation, why it's coming later, and if the third type of patience, like facing the profound truth, emptiness without fear, yeah, if you're able to do that, that is already wisdom, I would say. So,
Arne, can I follow up on that with
Marina, I can see you.
It's like God. It says, "Let there be light." Sorry.
Wait, I spotlight you.
So, can you talk a little bit about the distinction between, or the delineation between, patience versus, I guess, excusing behavior, or like indulging in? I guess when I'm hearing patience, I hear it both from like there's an external enemy, but also I think last time when we spoke, it's kind of also thinking some of the kleshas and some of the negative afflictions are also like enemies. So it's having patience with the inner fluctuations. But I don't know if you can speak a little bit between that difference between like patience and like the, oh, it's just going to happen, so I'm just going to let it go and it doesn't matter, like that kind of. Does that make sense?
Can you elaborate the second one a little bit more, this excusing thing?
Yeah, so I guess it's like, like with a child, sometimes you may excuse behavior, right? Like if they do something like they continually do something negative or bad, or if your enemy is completely, let's say you have a coworker at work who's, who's doing something that's negative, you may understand, you may have patience with it, but what is that line between, I guess here from a bodhisattva perspective, what is the line between excusing behavior and kind of letting it continue to develop versus the patience aspect of understanding?
So if your coworker is negative to you, then you might excuse his behavior. Is that your point?
Yeah, I think, or even if internally, let's say I have bad behavior internally, like a negative emotion internally, if I apply the same level of patience to that negative emotion, sometimes I can excuse it and say, oh, it's just coming up again, but then it may continue to develop further. I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm not sure yet, but let's start with the co-worker. So if we have a negative co-worker, then yes, for our sake, it's good to be patient, of course, right? Because if we start getting angry, then that's not comfortable or not a nice mental state, right? And then for the sake of, let's say, him, if we keep on not being angry, that is also good, because then we're maybe not making him angry and creating some more negativities out of his anger. But since we are not angry, we have more peaceful and clear and calm mind, and therefore we can then see the best way how to react with him. And then it could also be the best way to react with him if we stop him if he's doing negative things. Like if he's bullying you, for example, then I think it would be beneficial to stop him, because otherwise he would bully others as well, and he would create the tendency of bullying, and he would create a lot of negative karma. So therefore the Dalai Lama wants us to know always that patience is not being passive, it's just not having anger, not being disturbed. But then what to do with that state of undisturbedness? Be as compassionate and wise as possible. And then, we have to stop bullies, for the sake of others and for the sake of the bully himself. Now I see Pallavi, but I need to see Marina first. Sorry, Pallavi. Coming back to you. Is that a little bit answering the first thing with the colleague?
Yes, yeah. I think the distinction when you use the word, I'm trying to remember the word, I'm sorry, not like being, I guess, controlling yourself a little better, or being calm, so patience is almost like having better internal modulation. Yeah,
it's almost like being in meditation, I would say, to confuse Nadia even more. It means we are able to keep a unshaken, undisturbed mental peace. We are able to continue that. That is, and that is really good for ourselves, and then it's also good for others, because then if we act from there, then it's much more meaningful than if we would act out of anger.
Okay.
And then your second thing, if you have, or if I have a negative emotion, then yes, then what is your thing?
So I think the way that I'm seeing it is, and maybe this isn't actually the correct way, so really would love all of your feedback. And it's just, so if I'm thinking of the enemy outside, doesn't it also correspond to my own internal afflictive emotion?
Yes, that is the main enemy in our life. Yes, the only one, actually. Yes. And then,
so then I guess maybe I'm personalizing the internal enemy. So the afflictive emotions in some ways could take on a role of a character or something, right? So let's say I'm getting very impatient. So there's an impatient type of character inside.
Yes.
So if I approach the patience, I guess, to that internal character in the same way, but I think that the first answer that you gave me would make sense too there. It's basically, you're not excusing behavior to that personality. You're having the control, the meditative state to be able to not entangle with it. Is that okay?
Yeah, so that would be attachment to it if you get entangled, but then aversion would also be wrong, right? That would be anger, like outwards. Also, if you have aversion to a negative emotion in yourself, doesn't make sense, because aversion is already a negative emotion also, so you would add up to it, and then you would have one part in yourself fighting with another part. That is also not healthy. So therefore your meditation is still the best, just give it space to arise, abide, and leave, without without your entanglement, you know, neither getting attached, like entangled to it, but also not trying to push it away, but just let it come and go, you know.
It's tricky, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely, I mean, even though we are talking about real enemies outside, they are all, I mean, the main enemy is always our negative emotions. And only because we have negative emotions, therefore we perceive somebody as an enemy out there. If I would be full of compassion, I would not perceive any enemy in the world. Of course not. I would not have that perception, yeah. I would only see hippies.
I'll stop there. I think, I don't know, Pallavi, if you wanted to.
Yeah, Pallavi, I think is eagerly.
Thank you.
Where is she?
No, I just what of Marina said that, and it's a question from me also that, you know, like, though you know the absolute thing that you're not supposed to get, not supposed to, that we can't get really angry with the person because like whatever the causes and conditions, and then something which is triggering us, it is the emotion. But if there is somebody at a relative level really harming you or acting in a funny way, will it help to kind of do a display of knowing without harming ourselves deeply, to let that person know that this is BS?
That's what?
That is BS. Like basically a display at a relative level. But like we know internally that it's not right, like we're getting hurt, but we sort ourselves, we step back, we don't respond, pause, do all that. But there has to be a certain level of display to that person,
Yes.
letting that person know that that is not fine.
Yes. No, I accept. But this is better, it's more easy to be done if you are not angry. That is the main point of patience. Because you are patient and you're not angry, therefore you can choose your display perfectly, you know, what is really helpful for that person. Otherwise, it might be undigestible.
Yeah, like I mean, the speed of understanding this might vary at times. Like sometimes it's a practice, of course, but the display is important.
Yes, but then also, if it's just a small thing, then maybe no display is necessary, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that depends on like how much, yeah.
Yeah, but then, yes, if it's a bigger thing, let's say bullying in an office, yes, that needs to be stopped because maybe Marina is sort of able to cope with it, but maybe her other co-workers will like be very depressed and suicidal after the bullying, you know, of that other person. So therefore, for the sake of others, yes, one has to stop them, you know. I mean, that is totally another big topic, but that is, of course, the main logic why people sometimes point out if a big lama is maybe not nice to women, you know, like they want to protect other women, you know, and that is, I think that has to be done. I mean, you can't. Yeah.
May I just add an idea to the patients?
Yes.
I come from the development aid camp, and I've been following during years the negotiations between enemy countries. And one of the tools is really that you listen to the different narratives the two enemy countries have, because these narratives are very different. And if you begin to listen to the narrative of one side or the enemy, you listen to the enemy's narrative, and the enemy begins to listen to your narrative, thanks to patience, and you really force yourself to listen to, then suddenly they begin to have a little bit of understanding.
Yeah.
And that is nothing else than what we are talking about, I think, in the moment. That really you control your own hate hatred, you control your emotions as an enemy state and or as politicians, and the other side as well. And so they begin to negotiate suddenly, they begin.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree. This understanding is really the key point always.
Yeah.
We cannot, yeah, some teachers I heard that they say you can't just have compassion like that, you know, it's based on understanding, you know. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Effie still here? Yeah. Because Dolpo Turko today said something nice, which I liked. He said, if somebody is, I don't know, insulting you or harsh words and so on, it's I don't know if you have been there already when he said that it's never that the person really wants to do that, but it's always coming from, I don't know, like let's say a bad place or unhappy place, you know, that the other person is sad, frustrated or whatever, you know, only that's why he or she is saying something negative to me. If he or she would be happy, he would not do that. So therefore, yeah, and that helps, you know, to understand the situation of the other person. Yeah, your cat died, you know, or you lost your job, or yeah, you're a little bit sick, you know, and therefore you are maybe saying harsh words, you know, that helps totally. But then Marina's point was also, I think, very important. Then, we should not be left there only, you know, like, yes, I understand why you're hurting me. Please continue to hurt me. You know, that we are not inviting that.
Arne, just Marina, I really agree. Well, just talking about people in the workplace, that's such a big topic. But then the bullying, looking at the perspective of stopping the person, because by bullying others, they are creating the habit and they are harming themselves. I can see, you know, there is a reason to protect them. Of course, but if they stop, they will stop harming others as well. But the point of view of looking at the damage they are doing to themselves. But there are other things which are, the line is a lot more blurred. You know, situations in the workplace, control freaks or whatever. They're not necessarily they are walking around and doing a lot of harm, but they may have behaved in not really the best possible way towards you. And then, as is not so clear as in the bullying, one understanding, I'm frustrated, but this is within the framework of my own mind to let go, but then it would have to be to really let go, or to no, this is not okay. But for me, if I say this is not okay, it's like, is this being my me, wanting to protect myself? Is this my ego that is not happy because something was done that I'm not happy about? Is this about me or is it about the person? You know what I mean? I mean, the bullying is about, it can be seen as about them wanting to protect them from not harming themselves by the action of bullying. But if you have, I don't know, well, okay, I just wrote hours of work into a research grant, and someone I've never collaborated before, and we are trying, has just redone the whole thing, and I've been working on it for months, and everything was fine. Oh yeah, wonderful. And then rewrites everything. You know, it's a kind of, it can be just a control freak. Well, I stood my ground and I kind of, but not really, not necessarily that pattern is going to be harmful for her in terms of going around and harming others.
Could be, because if, yeah, nobody likes a control freak. They might distance themselves from others.
But not necessarily are they harming themselves karmically. I mean, by being control freaks. It's the ego, but
Yeah,
I
they're
had to,
solidifying. They might solidify their ego and think their way is the highway.
well, it was my ego and the other person's ego, you know, and I stood my ground. It's like, I don't care. But not necessarily, I think sometimes just letting go and just, it may actually be the solution. I don't know. To me, it's blurred. I wish I had an answer for that. But like workplace, it can be fantastic. It can be tiring. It can be challenging. Can be exhausting.
Yeah. No, and there's never like a black and white answer, you know, like really Ringo Turko literally said, you know, if you are taken advantage of a little bit, that's fine as a bodhisattva, don't worry, you know, that you have to accept, you know, and be strong, you know, and don't be so touchy feeling. But then on the other hand, if it's too much, then also for the sake of the other person, not to create the tendency of taking advantage of somebody, you know, you have to stop this person. So yeah, it's I think still patience is the best, to have a clear mind, and then use your best possible wisdom and compassion in that situation, and then see if you keep silent, or if you are shouting, or if you are accepting or wanting to change.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Shouldn't we first and foremost examine? It's Effie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Shouldn't we first and foremost examine that maybe we did something to provoke something from someone else? Maybe something we did caused some unpleasant behavior from someone else. Shouldn't that be something to examine first?
From Lojong point of view, yes.
But even from a mundane point of view.
No, but we are assuming we are perfect. Therefore, no, that is, I think, also a big part of the chapter. Yes, that is coming actually. You know how much our contribution is, you know, in that situation. Yeah, of course, Shantideva is talking more karmically, and I think Effie, you are talking more psychologically, maybe, or like whatever actions we did. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Actually, Rapsang got brought up this topic when he did this teaching right now, that no matter whatever that is happening, it's ultimately the causes and conditions ripening on us and how we deal with that. So I think if Effie was there, maybe that's exactly what he said. He was referring to that.
Yeah. I want to know.
Yeah, but that is really coming in the next verses, which we don't cover today. But we are mainly the main culprit. You know, we actually make our enemy to an enemy, and making him or her now to harm us back because we harmed him in previous lives. You know, so we are actually benefiting. That is coming really. We are benefiting because our negative karma now is exhausted, but he just started a new one. You know, he was angry with us and did something negative. So we are actually benefited by him harming us, and he himself or herself, she will have suffering in the future. So therefore, and that is really like, that is the situation karmically. And then we might even think, okay, then we have to harm him or her back so that he or she is harmed more than he was giving harm to me. And therefore, you know, karmically, then he was harmed more. So therefore, he is better off, karmically speaking. Got it? That's very interesting thinking. And then Shantideva is saying, yeah, this doesn't work, because if you harm him back, then you escalate the situation. That's the first point. And the second point is you are ruining your virtuous life. But yeah, this following verses, they are really about that. It's Shantideva is pointing out more and more that it's actually our doing, you know, that we are in that situation, and that the poor enemy is just an instrument of our karma. Yeah, that is, I think, definitely good. But then what we talked, starting with Marina, is also important, sort of, when we look out. So that is, so when we look into the idea that is more my karma, that is definitely a truth. But that is more about reflection, I have the feeling. But when we talk about the thing with Marina, then it's about conduct, I think, how to act then, and then, yeah, I think all the teachers, they say we should still then act in a way that is beneficial. And for example, if there's a bully, then yes, this one should be stopped, even though it's our karma that we are bullied. So maybe those two perspectives are not contradictory. Effie, what do you think?
I'm even speaking from the mundane perspective. Of course, you can't allow someone to cause harm. Yeah. But if you've got an unagreeable person in any situation of your life, I think first examine what did you do to them. And if you find that genuinely you didn't do something to them to provoke this, you can handle it in whatever corresponding way you think might be best for the overall situation.
But I think that you provoke the person in past lives.
Also, what yeah, Effie?
Yes, of course you provoke the person in past life, and of course everything is karma, but I'm speaking in the context of the immediate situation. That's it.
Also, Effie's point reminded me of a story, and then we will conclude. There was a wanderer coming to a mountain, and there was a shepherd or somebody, and the shepherd was looking at the valley where there was a village, and the wanderer, he wanted to settle down somewhere. So he asked the shepherd, "How are the people in the village?" And then the shepherd said, yeah, he didn't answer, but he asked then the wanderer, "So how are the people in the village where you are coming from?" And then the wanderer, he said, "Yeah, most of them are friendly, but some there are very annoying and so on." And then the shepherd said, "Yeah, in this village, it's exactly the same." And I don't know, I didn't tell it properly, but the idea is we will perceive the people always the same, like because Effie said, you will always, in every situation, you will have somebody who is maybe your enemy. And yeah, if that is our outlook, that will happen, It doesn't matter if we are in Deer Park or in, I don't know, in Brazil or in Berlin. It's always the same. There will be always one enemy. Or if we are more negative, we have always maybe 10 enemies everywhere. So,
but isn't that a pattern of habit?
Yeah, exactly. That is the point. It's not depend. I'm not contradicting Effie. I wanted to support her. It is our problem. It's our outlook. It's our pattern, how we perceive beings. Yeah, and this pattern we carry everywhere. It doesn't matter where we are. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I think we didn't cover much verses, but we had a lot of discussions. And so we ended here, verse 40. Okay, I will find some dedication prayers. Yeah, but really, really thank you for being so interactive and sharing. Very kind of you. By this merit, having attained omniscience and defeated the enemy of wrongdoing, may I free all beings from the ocean of existence with its tumultuous waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Just as the heroic Manjushri who knows everything as it is, and as Samantabhadra likewise did true, just so to follow all of them and train myself, I perfectly dedicate these meritorious actions. May the precious supreme bodhicitta arise in those in whom it has not arisen. Having arisen may it not diminish, but ever expand more and more. As long as space remains and as long as the world remains, may it too remain to elevate the suffering of the world. May I, in each and every lifetime, carry the weight of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. And if I cannot bear that weight, at the very least may I be born with the burden of thinking that the Buddha Dharma could reign. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Arne.
Thank
Ciao,
you.
everyone.
Have a nice week. Oh, and happy Long Semper Day, right?
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
Who was also very patient. I think he, in his cave, he didn't have much. He was there for 3 years and he was living on mercury and 10 pounds of tsampa, and it was cold and not waterproof and everything. So, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Ciao.